I'm going to call this meeting to order. My name is Mark Roach. I'm the chairman, the presiding officer for the Texas Advisory Electrical License Advisory Committee. Call this meeting to order at 1 o'clock. And Anna, if you would perform the roll call to determine quorum.
Yes, sir. Stacy Mighty. Marcus Lundergreen.
Present.
John Sparrow.
Present.
Troy Webb. Christopher Bass.
Present.
Mark Matheny.
I'm going to call this meeting to order. My name is Mark Roach. I'm the chairman.
Oh, sorry, you're
presiding
muted.
officer for the Texas Advisory.
Here.
Lydell Toy.
Speaking. Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Kim Allen.
Present.
And presiding officer Mark Roach.
Present.
We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you, Anna. With that performed, first thing that I'm going to take care of is some introductions of our new folks that we have here with us today. First, we've got Mark Matheny. Where are you, Mark? There you are on the screen. Mark, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to tell us about yourself.
I'm an electrical contractor in San Antonio. Been a master electrician for many years and just hope I have something valuable to bring to this group.
Thank you. Welcome aboard. Thank you very much,
you.
Mark. Looking forward to working with you. Next, we have Lydell Toy. Where's Mr. Toy on this?
Yes, sir. Thank you,
All
Mark.
right.
My name is Lydell Toy. I have been in the sign industry with my own business in New Braunfels for 40 years. I'm a master sign electrician. I work closely with Jerry Daniels and Larry and Robert Nino in San Antonio. I'm the past president of the Texas Sign Association, and I'm also the government relations chairman for the San Antonio Texas Sign Association. And I'm the master sign electrician at large for the city of San Antonio. So I know my signs.
Great. Welcome aboard. We're glad to have you. And our last new member is where's he? Kim Allen.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kim Allen. I live in Rockwall, just about 20 miles east of Dallas on I-30. I'm a 43-year electrician. I am the training director for the North Texas Electrical Apprenticeship Program in Grand Prairie. I got my journeyman license for the city of Dallas in 1983. Got my master's license, city of Dallas also in 2001. And of course, those both grandfathered into the TDLR in 2004. So I do hold a journeyman license and a master electrician license. And that's about it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Welcome aboard, guys. We're really looking forward to your service. Thank you for your service. With that said, I will move on to our first item of business, item C on the agenda, General Counsel Training. Doug?
Yes,
Jennings,
sir.
take it away.
Thank you so much. Forgive me while I'm moving some things around. I'm just trying to share my screen. And let's see. Is everybody able to see that fully?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Just want to say, again, my name is Doug Jennings. I'm Assistant General Counsel for the agency. I am the lead General Counsel attorney for the electrical program. I also work as the lead attorney on the air conditioning and refrigeration program, and I work on a couple of other programs here at TDLR as well, including combative sports, which is boxing, MMA, that sort of thing, and also orthotists and prosthetists. And I'm glad to have the gang back together today, and glad to go over this training. I know our new members that you've probably seen this training in some form before in other capacities. We just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So what we're going to do today is hit the highlights of a few different areas of law that you'll encounter as an advisory board member. And so we'll be talking about the Open Meetings Act, the Administrative Procedure Act, and the Public Information Act. Anna, if you wouldn't mind, if you see any questions that arise in the chat or any hands raised, if you could just recognize the speaker, I would appreciate it. Y'all feel free to jump in at any point. You don't have to save your questions until the end. Certainly, we will have questions at the end if you'd like to wait. So the first area of law that we're going to cover is pretty relevant because we're in one today. It's the Open Meetings Act. Now, the purpose of the Open Meetings Act is to make sure that Texans have access to open and transparent government. And that law requires meetings of governmental bodies, including advisory boards like the one you're sitting on. It requires those meetings to be open to the public and be preceded by public notice of the time, place, and subject matter of the meeting. And the Open Meetings Act can get a little bit complicated. So one of the things I like to do at the beginning is just hit some definitions. So the first and most important definition for this discussion is quorum. Simply put, a quorum is a majority of the members of that governmental body. So the advisory board that's meeting today, by rule has or by statute has 9 members. And so a simple majority of that, of 9 would be 5. So a quorum for this body is 5 members. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important for a couple of reasons. A quorum must be present in order to take official action, such as approving a rule or making a formal recommendation. Also, if a quorum is not present, the board or committee may meet and have discussions, but may not take official action. You'll see another reason why a quorum is important in just a minute. Deliberation simply means discussion. It means a verbal or written exchange involving an issue within the jurisdiction of the governmental body. So I think an easy example today would, if we're talking about the party Mr. Roach is holding at his house after this meeting, we're not engaging in deliberation under the Open Meetings Act because we're not talking about board business. But if we're talking about whether or not to adopt a rule dealing with the National Electrical Code, we are deliberating. We're talking about board business. And so perhaps the most important definition for this section is a meeting. And you'll understand why I mentioned the definitions of the other 2 terms. A meeting under the Open Meetings Act occurs anytime and anywhere a quorum of a governmental body engages in deliberation regarding public business or public policy. Or anytime that body takes formal action. And so I just want to stress again, a meeting occurs anytime and anywhere that happens. The Open Meetings Act also requires notice. So we've got to have written notice of the time, date, place, and subject of the meeting. And TDLR, of course, provides this notice in the form of an agenda, which has been distributed to you. It's also been filed. TDLR files the agenda for each meeting with the Secretary of State's office, and that's posted on the website, on the Secretary of State's website. What's also important about the agenda is that the board or the advisory board or the governmental body may not engage in discussions that aren't on that agenda. Okay, so keeping in mind that a meeting under the Open Meetings Act can be triggered anywhere and any time a quorum of members meets and has deliberation. Well, what about these settings like social functions, conventions, and workshops? Again, keep in mind that a meeting can happen anytime you engage in a quorum of the body engages in deliberation or discussion about board business. So if you're at one of these events and you notice that there is a quorum of members, it's okay. You don't have to go running for the exits. Just keep the discussion kind of incidental to the event and don't venture off into board business. So some key points to remember just to avoid violating the Open Meetings Act. Always be aware of any situation that's occurring outside of a properly noticed meeting where there's a quorum of members present. And so that means in a physical location or even kind of a virtual location like social media. I think one of the things that I think has drawn more attention lately in the last few years has been violations of the Open Meetings Act on social media. For example, if a member posts a news story about an important issue and other board members make comments about that, you have a potential violation of the Open Meetings Act. Also, if you tweet something about the industry and those get retweeted, you could have a dicey situation there too. Excuse me. So always be aware of these situations where either online or in person, you have a quorum of members talking about a particular issue. You don't want to talk about board business in that setting. And if you don't talk about board business, you won't violate the Open Meetings Act. There's also another wrinkle on the Open Meetings Act called the walking quorum. And keep in mind that once again, in this setting, the advisory board, a quorum is 5. But let's just take a scenario where there is an advisory board that has 5 members. So 2 of the members are engaging in, they're emailing back and forth about a particular issue. I'm so sorry. I'm coming off a cold and I'm having a little congestion. So on this 5-member advisory board, 2 of the members are communicating back and forth. A quorum for this purpose would be 3 people because this advisory board is 5. So the 2 people that are engaging in exchanging views are not violating the Open Meetings Act because they're not a quorum. Well, after they've had this discussions, one of those members forwards an email chain to a 3rd member. So at that point, that's called a walking quorum. That's where the communication that would be completely legal between less than a quorum gets forwarded to another person or another people so that now we have a quorum involved in the discussion. So one of the things we will name a work group today. And we always keep those work groups less than a quorum. And that's for open meetings purposes. So if you are named to a work group, just want to make sure to keep those discussions within that work group and not forward them to anyone outside of the work group. We can avoid open meetings violations that way. So good practices to avoid quorum issues. Again, don't meet in small groups or work groups and then communicate those discussions to other members. Don't send emails or text messages to a quorum of members. And don't create posts on social media where there's a likelihood that a quorum of the board will participate in that discussion. And once more, I just want to remind you that the board is limited to discussing the specific items on the agenda. So if the topic comes up today that really generates some discussion and we want to talk about it, but it's not on the agenda, there's a portion of the agenda, we can recommend that discussion be placed on the agenda for a future meeting. Once again, an interested person, including the media, may petition the court to stop actions taken in violation of the Open Meetings Act, and also an act taken in violation of the an action taken in violation of the act is voidable. And of course, there are criminal penalties as well. You're looking at confinement in county jail from 1 to 6 months and a fine of up to $500 or both. If my voice will hold up, I will get through the Administrative Procedure Act. The purpose of the Administrative Procedure Act, we call it the APA. It establishes minimum standards of uniform practice and procedure for agencies. It governs the rulemaking process, and we'll have another look at that today up close in person. And it also governs the contested case process, which, as you know, we have an enforcement division that prosecutes violations of TDLR's laws and rules. A rule is simply it's a statement made by a state agency that either implements or interprets law or policy or describes the procedure or practice requirements of an agency. I think, as you're all aware, state statutes kind of draw the broad guidelines. An electrician must be licensed, things like that. A journeyman must have X number of hours of experience. Well, the statute can't cover everything. It can't fill in all the blanks that need to be filled in, and so that's where a rule comes in. And I hope you've all familiarized yourself at least somewhat with the electrical rules. If you have them memorized, you're doing better than I am, even though I look at them every day. Then there are several sources for rulemaking. Of course, every couple of years, our legislature meets and may promulgate new laws that need to be implemented, and there may be rules that need to be implemented. Also, we get recommendations for rules from advisory board work groups, from discussions in advisory board meetings. And then there are a couple of other mechanisms through which we get rules, such as a 4-year rule review and a rule petition. Just a little, this is This is a little graph of a little flow chart of the Administrative Procedure Act, the rulemaking process. You'll see a couple of blue boxes, and whenever we have a rule that is being proposed, the advisory board gets to see it a couple of times. And so today we will talk about a potential rule, and we'll be in the first blue box where we propose a rule. We bring it to the advisory board for your input. Then after the board has approved it, well, in the event that the board approves that rule, the proposed rule is filed with a publication called the Texas Register. The public then has 30 days to submit comments. We collect those comments. We bring them back to you in a second meeting, and you're able to go through those comments, look at the concerns of the public and determine whether or not the proposed rule needs to be changed. If you think that it does not need to be changed, you will then vote the rule to go to our agency's governing board, the commission. If the commission approves the rule, that document is again filed with the Texas Register, and those rules become effective 20 days after filing. And we'll talk more about the process later on in the agenda. Lastly, the Public Information Act. You've also probably heard this called the Open Records Act. We'll call it the Open Records Act. It's intended to allow people to have information about the affairs of government and the official acts and documents of public officials and employees. It makes all documents, records, and other information relating to open business open to the public with some exceptions. And so the reason this is relevant is your communications with TDLR staff or communications with other people about board business are going to be subject to the Public Information Act. So anytime you use not only a TDLR device, but even if you use a TDLR email address or even a personal email address to engage in board business, those emails and documents you send can be subject to disclosure to the public under the Public Information Act. So one of the things that we ask is if you receive a request for information or documents, please forward that immediately to me or to board staff. You can forward it to Anna. She'll make sure it comes to me. And the reason we have to do that is we only have 10 days from one of those requests in order to fulfill it. And if we don't respond to that person's request in a timely manner, we might have to end up disclosing some information that otherwise we wouldn't want to disclose. Now, typically, things that can't be disclosed are sensitive personal information, medical information, educational documents like transcripts, personal email addresses, date of birth, those very confidential pieces of information. But if we don't act on a Public Information Act request in a timely manner, we might actually waive some things like some privilege and some deep legal stuff. Point is, we've got to act quickly. Anyway, so that is, looks like my voice just barely held up. Does anybody have any questions? Happy to answer them if you do. All right, not looking like any. I'm going to give my voice a rest for a few minutes on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. You always do a great job of that for us. There being no questions of Doug Jennings, then I'll move on to item D, approval of the minutes. They were in the packets that Anna sent out to everybody, and I'm assuming everybody had an opportunity to take a look at them. If not, I'll give a couple of minutes here. And here in just a moment, I'll ask for a motion to approve. Anybody have any questions or discussion regarding the minutes? No indication of any. I'll take a motion to approve.
Mr. Rhodes, Kit Bass here. I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Kit. How about a second?
Marcus Lindegreen, I second that motion.
All right, Marcus. I don't know if you'll call the roll for approval.
Yes, sir. Marcus Lundergreen,
Aye.
John Sparrow,
Aye.
Kit Bass,
Aye.
Mark Matheny,
Aye.
Lydell Toy,
Aye.
Tim Allen,
Aye.
and presiding officer Mark Roach.
Aye.
Motion passes, sir.
Thank you, Anna. Moving on to item E, there's public comment. There is none. All right, that said, we'll move on to item F, starting the staff reports. And Elizabeth Moreno, you are up.
Okay, I'm sorry. Good afternoon. I was just making sure my camera's working. Here I am.
Good to see you.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman and board members. My name is Liz Marino, and I'm filling in for Lisa Hodek, who could not be here today. And this statistic report currently shows information for fiscal year 2021 and September 2021 through April 22nd, 2022, I'm sorry. And as you can see, the majority of our population has slightly increased. And now I'd like to just go to touch base on the last page of our report where it shows combined total population. Okay, for last year, 2021, we show a total population of 162,779. Currently through April 2022, we show an increase in population to 166,798. And this pretty much concludes our report. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer.
Mr. Roach, you're muted.
Thank you, Anna. Pardon me, my wife asked me if the dog needed to eat. Scratch that from the minutes, would you, Anna?
Yes, sir.
No, I was saying that it's a positive sign that we're growing in numbers in a concerning time, in my opinion, regarding our skilled trades, our young folks coming into the industrial market of any form or nature. But with that said, anybody have any questions of Elizabeth? There being none, thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Thank you, sir.
Some positive news.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to item F2, Customer Service Division, Jacqueline Rush.
Hi, good afternoon, board members. My name is Jacqueline Rush. I'm one of the customer service managers, and you usually see Dawn Robinson here. So I'm just filling in for her. It looks like she submitted a very simple report for this meeting that includes email numbers and call numbers for fiscal years 2021 and 2022 so far. Usually those calls and emails have to do with original applications, renewals, questions on where to find laws and rules that have to do with the statute. Also license status, and we assist with payments for renewals for these licenses as well. And so those are some of the top reasons people might call us and also email us. If y'all have any questions on the report, I'll be happy to answer those.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Does any of the members of the board have any questions? It looks like I'm comparing fiscal year 22 to 21. It looks like we're down slightly.
Yeah, and I think that that is actually part of that is because the licensing department has done a really great job, and the agency in general, in handling a backlog that we had in the previous year. And so people tend to call in less and email less, checking on the status because things are getting turned around a little faster. That's part of it. Also, we did make a change where emails that come in with attached documents go straight to the licensing team, since we don't want to bottleneck that in customer service and wait for those to come in, and then we end up forwarding those to licensing anyway. So that was a really good change, I think, for the customers, to eliminate some wait time on the emails. So you'll see the numbers looking yeah, definitely a little bit lighter for fiscal years 2022 so far.
Great. That is great to hear. Streamlining things up there, huh?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. All right. Anything else, Jacqueline?
That is all I have for you all today.
All right, Jacqueline. Thank you very much. Good job. Good job.
Thank you very much.
All right. Moving on to item F3, calling Robert Reyes for Enforcement Division.
Yes, sir. Chairman Roach, Robert Reyes here. Good afternoon to you and to all the board members. As I said, my name is Robert Reyes. I'm the prosecuting attorney for this case, along with my teammate Amanda Barrera. First of all, some personnel updates. As you see, we've had a few promotions. I wanted to highlight Karen Cox, who retired January 31st of this year after 17 years with the department and over 30 years in state government. She worked for the Texas Workforce Commission, the Department of Transportation, as well as the Texas Railroad Commission before working with us and retiring. She was promoted to a senior prosecutor in January 1st of 2019, where she helped oversee and mentor attorneys within the enforcement division, including me personally. And she was a great help to me when I found my way into the program and helped me with get on my feet and accelerate my learning curve greatly. And I know that all the attorneys that worked with her are very appreciative of all the efforts that she gave and offered us during her time here. So we wish her very well in retirement. If she's watching, I hope not, because I hope she's on the beach somewhere. But if she is, we greatly appreciate you, Karen, and we thank you for all that you've done for us and me personally. Thank you. Moving down to our statistics. The last meeting we had was September 8th, 2021. And so the statistics that I'm going to offer you are for the 7 full months from the beginning of the fiscal year in September 1 of 2022 to the 31st of March of this year. So that's 7 full months. If you see the numbers there, our consumer complaints are basically 6.5% of the total consumer complaints that the department has received through those 7 full months. And the criminal history is basically 50% of the cases that TLR has received for criminal history cases. So this is definitely a large program, as you stated, Chairman Roach there previously. And they're growing, and the more that we have, the more interested parties that we have, the more cases that we're going to have, and the more criminal history cases we are going to have to review. Moving forward, we're still clicking off these cases and getting them resolved. As you can see, the fourth line there, the key statistics, this program is ahead of the average for TDLR. So along with my teammate Amanda, and also the other attorneys who help us with the unlicensed cases, we are doing a lot of great work in getting this done. I wanted to thank them here online personally. The unlicensed cases go to Sarah McKinney, Hunter McKinley, and Rachel Seshan, and they've done a great job helping Amanda and I with those unlicensed cases. So we definitely appreciate them and all of our legal assistants that help us get these things through. Looking at the sources of cases opened, we have 66% of our cases are currently criminal history cases. We have 1%. The departmental cases are holding steady, and then the consumer cases are 1/3 of the total cases that come in and that are opened. As you can see, this This chart is definitely a little bit different than the TDLR as a whole. So we have almost tripled the amount of criminal history cases that are coming in. So again, a lot of new people are seeking licensure, and as the best we can, we go through the criminal histories. If anything pops up, we have that case opened. As far as case outcomes, the penalties collected, we have roughly 17% of the money collected is I'm sorry, 17% of the penalties assessed have been collected so far. That number could change because we have orders that have not been signed yet. We have cases where we've sent out the NOAV, but a decision has not been made by the respondent whether or not they're going to agree to it. So that is what we have. Those are numbers we have right now, but those fluctuate because of the different possibilities and outcomes that we can have. Right now, the penalties collected overall with the throughout the department, we're looking at 56.6% of the money collected, as opposed to the when compared to the penalties assessed. So that's right in line historically with what we've been seeing in these previous reports and what I've been reporting to you. Next page are the violations at opening. And since we have new members here, I wanted to make sure that they understand that this is how cases are initially identified by intake. That is not the that may not be the final identification or final tagging that will be assigned to the case, but this is what intake initially sees. So as you see, the criminal history is far and away the most common item when we look at case openings. But the second one there, contracting without a license, that has historically been a real big issue, not only in this program, but also in ACR and the other building and mechanical programs. So especially now in this this season where a lot is happening with buildings either retrofitting or new builds or any sort of work, we definitely want to make sure that everyone's licensed. That way they have minimum standards that they of knowledge and experience that we have in our laws and rules. And we hope that our licensee contractors make sure that the employees that they're employing are also all licensed. So that's a very big thing that we constantly want to ensure that licensees are focused on. Moving down, the violations resulting in disciplinary action. These are the violations that are actually determined by the attorney after a review of the individual cases. So as you see there, the contract without the license is second, and we also have going down there some other violations where we have had disciplinary action. But again, the contracting is by far and away the without license is by far and away the most in terms of quantity, the amount of cases that we have. We've seen the fiscal 2021 numbers previously, so I'll just glance over them. But our numbers right now, as far as fiscal year 2022, are basically in line with 2021. So not much there is happening. I will go forward with the case summaries for you all. In regards to Mr. Meese, the first case I wanted to highlight for you, Mr. Meese applied for an apprentice electrician license. It was found by the commission, this was a commission order, it was found by the commission that he had a history of convictions for well over 7 years there. And those offenses were that of which he was convicted involved fraud, deception, and were crimes against property. Those are obviously crimes that are part of the criminal history guidelines for the case. And so he was denied licensure as the commission found that insufficient time had passed for him to demonstrate the requisite honesty, trustworthiness, and integrity required for licensure. So those last three things, the honesty, trustworthiness, and integrity, are the baseline that are codified. In regards to Mr. Cox, he agreed that he offered to perform contracting work without holding the appropriate contractor license. This was we were able to file this NOAV against him as he was a participant in one of our stings that the department does every year, once during the summer and once in late fall. So he had an advertisement on the Craigslist.org website. We found it. He went ahead and came to our sting site and offered to do some work. And so he agreed that that was a violation of the laws and rules. And so he was there was an administrative penalty of $750 levied against him, and he's paid that in full as of October of last year. Mr. Garcia, in case number ELC 2021, last four digits of 4884, he agreed that he allowed an unlicensed individual to use his license to obtain a permit for electrical work. Obviously, this is not what needs to be happening. Everyone needs to be doing their own work and doing it on their own license. So he agreed that he had violated the laws and rules, and the agreed order included a penalty of $2,625, which he paid off early this year. Mr. Orona, this is a restricted license case, and since we have some new members, I'd like to go over that briefly with them. The restricted license came about during House Bill 1342 of, I believe, the previous legislative session, and it relates to a person's eligibility for an occupational license, and this amends Texas Occupations Code 51.355. There are only two programs that are allowed at this time, that allow a restricted license at this time, and that is this electrician's program and also the air conditioning and refrigeration program. So it's important for everyone to understand that this is not a full license. It was created as a pathway for those who have a criminal history who normally would not have qualified for a license to be able to work up to a full license if they satisfy certain requirements. And this is only for a criminal history. The department cannot use a restricted license as a license sanction. So the term of the restricted license is for 1 year, and after that year, it is a burden upon the department to show that the terms of the restriction and the restricted license should continue. So if that's not something that the department can do, upon reapplication, it turns into a full license. Administrative rules for a restricted license in 73.71, we can prosecute the supervisor of that person in the event of a transgression as well. So there are historically, for a restricted license, it's not only the applicant who's on the hook, but also those who are supporting his or her application, and those that will supervise the applicant for the job. So in the terms, so for Mr. Orona's case, he was a subject of a criminal history investigation after he applied for renewal of his journeyman electrician license. He had a criminal history that was directly related to the duties and responsibilities of an electrician as reflected in the criminal conviction guidelines. The prosecuting attorney interviewed not only him, but also the individual who was going to directly supervise Mr. Orona, and the department received supporting documentation from Mr. Orona in his bid for licensure, which included statements by those who would be supervising him, supporting his application. So upon seeing all the evidence and and statements, the prosecuting attorney decided that Mr. Arona would be a successful applicant for a restricted license and drafted a memo. That memo was received by Executive Director Brian Francis at the time, who signed off on the agreement. Again, that agreement is the restricted license, and the terms are valid for 1 year as of the date of issuance. So hopefully everything goes well for Mr. Arona. The last case that I would like to highlight for you all involves Mr. Sam Daniels, and he agreed that he allowed an unlicensed worker to perform non-exempt electrical work. So again, the unlicensed electrical work is a big issue in this program. He entered into a settlement agreement with the department and paid in full an administrative penalty of $1,500. That's all I have for the board today. If you all have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Anybody have any questions of Mr. Reyes?
Yeah, Liddell Toy here, Robert. I have a question. Well, more was a statement.
Okay.
I worked closely with Bob Nino, Robert Nino in San Antonio
Sure.
on getting sting operation, like commercial businesses that will allow us to go into empty spaces to do sting operations.
Mhm.
And we're having a lot of issues now. I tried to get Bob 3 locations in San Antonio, some of the commercial developers that I do work for. No, but we're just worried about repercussions coming back to us, later on. So how are you or Jerry and Larry and all, how are you guys getting locations to do the sting operations?
Mr. Toy, that's very concerning. Number one, I hadn't heard that. Number two, I am not involved in the planning of the or enforcement is not involved in the planning of that. Specifically the prosecutors, the investigation section of the enforcement division would be responsible for that. I do not have any information on that, but I can follow up with the investigators manager as well as the chief prosecutor to let them know if they don't know about this, to let them know about the situation, and we can definitely get some information to you through the attorney for the advisory board or through Doug Jennings, whoever is the appropriate channel. Unfortunately, I'm not able to speak intelligently about that because of my lack of knowledge, but we can surely try to find some answers if we don't have some, and we can forward those to you as soon as we get something down.
Yeah, because I'm just trying to, help you guys out, help the organization out. And, I'd like to know what's happening in Houston and Dallas and Fort Worth and, around the state, because if that's going to be a problem moving forward, enforcement's going to be kind of difficult with the sting operations. So, and I'm trying my best to try to get some more other developers, to kind of tag on to the program, but it's hard right now just because of the mindset.
Sure. I've just received some information from the investigations manager, Mr. Arevalo, stating that there is a sting schedule for San Antonio in June, so they were able to get a location for that. And our chief prosecutor, Mr. Medlock, has indicated to me that we are in touch with multiple persons, in hopes that they volunteer, some spaces, but. That's totally understandable. There could be repercussions, if that was a previous site that people, obviously they'll know about it after they go to the sting location. So that unfortunately, that is not something that I've been aware of, but it's definitely concerning. And like I said, I'll take your concern to my supervisors and upper level. I know Ms. Kaiser, who's our deputy executive director, is on the call as well too. So I'm sure there'll be some conversations about that here in the near future, but thank you for bringing that up, sir.
Great. Thanks, Robert.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for a great question there. Christina, would it be appropriate for Jerry Daniel to have any kind of comment regarding this question?
If Jerry has any thoughts, he's welcome to offer them at this time. It's typically the enforcement division investigators that schedule the sting operations. But if Jerry's got something that can help, certainly.
with us?
I'm with you. I'm trying to get it started up. So here we go. Yes, the stings are took care of by enforcement. Anytime we're asked to help on what to ask or what the house or business looks like that they can ask, it's realistically, we do help. I've actually got a request from Mr. Nino about the house that they have acquired, and I'm going to go over it with him, and we're going to figure out something that they can ask for to be done. But as far as the stings, we don't get involved unless we're asked. We do the sweeps. We get out there and do the sweeps. Last year, we hit a record number of over 1,600 people. We're looking this year at doing mileage. So we will work with our enforcement during the month of June, which is National Enforcement Month. We will work with them any way we can assist or help them. That is what me and Mr. Reichel are here for. And I'm sure the AC program, Mr. Weatherly and Mr. Smart, are both more than willing to help out any way we can. I do keep the word out to all of our contractors. Anybody that can find us a house, a commercial business, anything, please let us know so we can turn it over to enforcement and get one. Of course, it's hard to ask for somebody to come give you a price on a sign when you've got a residential house. So we like to get an establishment that we can actually ask for all these different things. Not only could you give us a price on a sign, could you give us a price on a service, but we're restricted to the location we're at, and enforcement is doing a very good job with the stings and taking care of it, and know that we're out there to help them anytime we can.
All right, thanks for that input, Jerry. Mr. Liddell, that you bring an important point to the awareness of the board here. I had no idea that we were having those kinds of issues in the field. I guess I never even thought about retaliation being a part of the program, but interesting. Got some angry folks out there.
Well, when they can break up Starbucks in Seattle and in Portland, you know, the sky's the limit, you know. So.
Point taken there. Point taken there. Excellent. Yes. And Robert, I'm assuming no news is good news where Mr. Rona is concerned.
As far as I know, sir, no, I don't have any further knowledge of his case or his licensure status. So hopefully everything is going well with him, and hopefully this is something that continues to be a positive for the program, because we do have these cases, come through. I know for the past few meetings, I've highlighted a restricted license cases, so I know that they're occurring, and it seems like it is something that's taken hold positively. And we hope that there is, zero recidivism rate on, when it comes to restricted license. That's the goal. So I don't know any more about Mr. Arona's situation, but like you said, no news is good news, sir.
That's great to hear. Kind of piggybacking on what Mr. Reyes has reported to us. I don't mean to be preaching to the choir for all the board members here, but for any of the members in the audience who might be paying attention, current licensure is just so critically important. And having been my license been with the department since its inception, it has become extremely easy. Not that it was difficult in the first place, but it's become so extremely easy to keep your license current. And one of the things that I advise a lot of my contractor and master electrician friends is it can be as simple as hanging a calendar on the wall, and for each of the months that you have any of your licensed guys working for you, just write down their expiration dates throughout the year, and either yourself or have somebody in the office just keep an eye on that calendar. It's that simple. And realizing that each of the license holders is responsible for their maintenance of their licenses, as contractors, I think it's critically important that you do the necessary housekeeping to keep everything in water, keep all the oars in the water all rowing in the same direction. And it's so disruptive. It just seems to be a whole lot more economically sound to keep all the measures in place to make it just as seamless and simple as possible. Keep everybody's license current. Anything else, Mr. Reyes?
That's all I have. Thank you for the statement, sir. Appreciate that.
All right. Thank you for your report.
Yes, sir.
No other questions, Mr. Reyes? We'll move on to item F4, Education and Examination Division. And I'll call on Michael Strawn.
Good afternoon, Chairman Roach and members. My name is Michael Strawn. I'm one of the managers for our Education Examination Division. I'd like to take the time to thank our new members for their service today. It's greatly appreciated and valued here, and open up both myself and this division to any questions you all may have at any point in time. We're here to serve you. Getting into my report, as you can see on the page, our examination statistics for our exams for FY22 versus FY21, we remain extremely consistent, about a 28% pass rate on both of them, less than half a point separating our total pass and fail rates from last year into this fiscal year. If we can move on down, please. This is the examinations broken out by license type, so a combination of what you see above, broken out into our license types. Again, what we've seen in last year comparatively to this year remains extremely consistent across the board through all of our different exam types. If we can scroll down again. Our continuing education course provider curriculum, it has increased about 5 to 6% from what we saw on FY21 to FY22. I don't have any metrics on exactly why that is. It's always a little moved as a little bit, but it has started to trend upwards a little bit, about, like I said, about 5 to 6%. With our electrician apprentice programs, we have also remained pretty consistent from FY21 to FY22. And then if we can go down to the next page for me, please. So this is where you'll see we were asked a while back to provide the journeyman exam statistics for the 7K versus 8,000 hour pass rates. One of the things to notice, especially as we've gained a little bit more data in this as time has gone on, when we first started reporting this, we didn't have enough statistically relevant information. We are starting to see that we are getting bigger numbers here to look at it comparatively. And what you will see is that the first time pass rates for 7K remain actually statistically fairly higher than what we see for the 8K pass rates. It is important to note, though, that the people who are failing, as you'll see in the repeats, and the repeat pass rate are significantly lower. So those that are failing multiple times, it appears, and that drives down the overall pass rates from what you're seeing. But it is important to note that the 7K change for the early testing has shown a marked improvement for first-time pass rates. If we can go down to the next page. And last, I wanted to just kind of let you know, we routinely meet for our exam review committee. And for our new members here today that may or may not know what our exam review committee is, all of our licensure programs that have an exam tied to them that is developed and maintained by the state, we meet routinely with an exam review committee that is comprised of a psychometrician from our exam vendor, members of my staff, our regulatory program management staff, members like Jerry Daniels and other people from that RPM program, and then also comprised primarily of subject matter experts throughout the industry. So in y'all's industry, both our master exam, the journeyman exam, having those tenured folks that have those licenses coming in and helping us to make sure that our exam items that we have written are performing correctly, that they're cited correctly, they're coded correctly to NEC or our statutes, rules, and references. We routinely do that for all of ours specialties, and we met here in February for the electrician program for both master and journeyman to review those items, make sure they are performing well, that they are asking those correct questions, or if there's new laws, rules, code changes that are happening, we make sure our exam remains up to speed and asking the appropriate questions to test candidates for minimal competency so they can obtain a license. With that being said, that concludes my report, and I'm open to any questions that you all may have.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions of Michael Strawn?
Yes, Mr. Strawn. This is Marcus Lundegreen. I was curious, I didn't see numbers. You talked about an increase on the continuing education courses from 21 to 22. And I was curious, was there a decrease from 2019, 2020 to 21? And we're just getting back on track, or is it an actual increase? Because I know the commission negated the requirement to obtain continuing education in 2020 due to the pandemic. So I know, I would guess a lot of the providers were unsure of whether or not, how long that was going to continue. So my guess is some of them may have postponed coming up with new continuing education material. But now everything's kind of getting back on track. So I guess my question is, from 2020 to 2021, did it reduce any in the number of courses?
Mr. Lundgren, Michael Strawn for Education Examination Division. Great question. I would have to definitely go back and look at the statistics from FY19 into 20 to really paint that picture for you. I can try and get that. I don't know if I can get it before the end of this meeting, but we can follow up with you on it. I will say, however, from what I recall, we did see, reductions in some of these courses across many of our programs, generally for the reason you saw. Those tended to kind of plateau back to where they originally were in FY21, but it's certainly something to consider, and I can look into that and get you some follow-up information. It's been a while since I've looked at FY20 and FY19 to articulate that to you exactly.
Great question, Marcus. I noticed just in looking at the going online and look at the available courses, it just seemed to be, I didn't do a count, but it seemed to be fewer in number. And I did recognize one year that one of the courses offered by one of the administrators it was the same course for a long period of time, from one year to the next. So that would be great information to have, Michael, what's going on with our.
Absolutely. I'll get with my team and I apologize, Mr. Arch. I'll get with my team and see if we can pull that data for you and get some better insight for you.
Perfect. I'm going to take a real brief moment here to give accolades to our examination review guys. I was signed up to go in February and couldn't make it. Members of the board need to be aware that it's an opportunity that you can take part in. It has some ramifications tied to it. I don't mind the ramifications, guys, because I'm much older now and my ambition and drive has waned a little bit regarding pursuance of the trade outside of the state of Texas. But it certainly warrants checking into, how it would impact you to participate in this thing. But I tell you what, I've been a couple of times, and that group of gentlemen that are in that review course, the most extraordinary gentlemen I believe I've ever had the opportunity to sit in the same room with, and the way that they cooperate with each other, the way that they function, the way that they work is just an absolute incredible thing to watch. And I can't say enough good things about all of them who take the time, their own personal time, to go take part in that for 3 days of their life to go in these different review sessions. So if you're interested, I highly recommend it. Do it at least once during your tenure on the board, if not more. Anyway, with that said, you guys did
Mr. Chairman,
great job.
Mr. Chairman, Kim Allen, thank you so much for that. I sat on that advisory board. I've sat on it for 8 years, and it is very humbling to be sitting in there with some of those guys. I mean, we can we work really hard. PSI does a great job keeping us on track, and we work really hard to make the questions not too easy and not too hard. The very first thing we do is look at them and see how they're performing, and see if there's some wording that needs to be done. And it's really easy to write an exam question. It's hard to come up with the multiple choice answers. But those guys in there, they do a very good job, and thank you for recognizing them for that. Thank you.
It is just absolutely unbelievable. I was just a very short, quick period of time. I was sitting in that room that I realized I was not, I was the dumbest guy sitting in there without a doubt. Very good. Very, very good. And thank you for your work on that. Thank you.
Mr.
Okay.
Michael Strawn has a comment.
Okay, Michael.
Michael Strawn, Education Examination. I just was, thank you both for your expertise, your follow-up on that, and really showing how important that process is to the success of our examination across the board. Again, we cannot thank those members enough. I didn't want to take the time here to go into full depth about the exam review committee process, but I will say for our new members, if you would like a full breakdown of what that process looks like, as you heard Chairman Roach, talking about serving on that board, what that entails, everything else. I'm happy if you would like to get with Anna or anybody else and get in contact with us. Happy to give you a full breakdown of what all of that constitutes. It's very in-depth. It really is an astounding process to be able to witness and to understand how we get to the final examination that we have and the continued updates that we have for it. So I just wanted to extend that olive branch out to you all. If you had any questions, I'm happy to answer any of those for you. That's it.
Thank you, Michael. Anything else for Michael? All right. And of course, you can pass it on to the folks with the exam company. Michael?
Will do, sir.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to item F5, the Regulatory Program Management Division. I'm calling Jerry Daniel.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Advisory Board members, new Advisory Board members. Before I get started, I would like to respectfully request about a minute of silence for the tragedy that's happened in Texas. Texas is an important place. This is not Texans. This is not what we do. So please give a minute for those that lost their lives yesterday.
Absolutely.
I appreciate the moment of silence and I thank you for that. Let's get down to the business that we're in and get this looked at. I'm going to bounce around here because we got some really important things. One of the big things we've been doing the job sweeps, inspections. We do it every month, but particularly during January and February. And it's moved all the way into here because of all the things we're doing. We're getting inspections done for our deputy chief, Mr. Larry Reichel. He is fixing to become a master electrical inspector. This is not an easy task. In fact, he will only be the 5th one in Texas that we have at this current time. We're also helping one of our industrialized housing and building third-party inspectors, Mr. Peterson, do the same thing. Not easy. You got to first qualify with lots of years, having a master license. Then you got to take the exam, and then you got to take 30 practical inspections with somebody that's there to sign off. So I'm very happy to see that and get Larry in place. Texas can be very, very proud at TDLR that in the very near future, 2 of the 5 master electrical inspector certifications are with the department. So Larry's worked really hard to get there. Very proud of him. If you look around, we've had all kinds of stuff going on. If you look at the first, NERA, the National Electricians Reciprocity Alliance. Yes, we're still going and we're still working with it. We're seeing the pendulum swing. A lot of states are starting to say, why do we need reciprocity? Just let everybody in. But when that pendulum swings back, we're going to be in the same place. So we're keeping this reciprocity group together. In fact, we will have the national meeting and host it for Texas. It will be the 26th through the 28th of September in Bandera, Texas. We're going to take all of them from our northern states and we're going to give them a little piece of Texas at a Cowboy Dude Ranch. I think it's going to be very great. If anybody's interested, please contact me. We do have some extra spaces if you would like to be there. But remember, we can't have more than 3 of you attend together or we have a quorum. So with that said, move on. Disaster response. We're getting ready on that. thank goodness I'm here today to talk to you. I didn't know if I was going to get a call to go out on disaster or not with the weather we had last night, but that's something that we do, helping Texas recover and getting it recovered. Now, don't get it confused. We're not the first responders like Task Force One. We are second responders that go in and assess the damage. Why is that important? Because the sooner the damage is assessed or reports made, the sooner the monies become available for Texans to build their properties back or get back to where they need to and help Texas recover as fast as possible. Been doing disaster response since I was an inspector in the city of Houston. So this is not new to me. It's just on a grander scale with the whole state of Texas, but it's something that I do very joyfully, serving the citizens of Texas. We had our NASCA conference call. We will be doing our national enforcement efforts in June again. Last year, Larry and I, during our sweeps, we concentrated on large places, large numbers, and we hit a record number, over 1,600 people in a little over 2 weeks. This year, we've had a lot of response from a lot of little places around Texas that just don't get the notoriety of the Houston, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio. This year, our theme is going to be miles. We're going to go out there in these small areas, and we're going to concentrate during June when we get back from Boston. We're going to concentrate on that and hit these areas that we've had lots of requests from our arc flash that came out to do this. It seems like over in East Texas, everybody can install a generator now, and we've got so many unlicensed generator companies working out there. But I will tell you something that bothers me that we need to think about, and listen up, contractors that are on. We're going out on these job sweeps and we're seeing an alarming number of licensed companies with unlicensed electricians performing your work. Now, we don't want to clog it up. You heard the numbers that enforcement have. We try to get compliance through our sweeps without having to clog up and backload enforcement. We give a legitimate contractor a specific time, usually less than a week, to get that license took care of, to get that renewal took care of, to get that markings on the truck, whatever it may be, we work with them. We've been very successful this year and most years at 100% compliance. And that's what our goal is, to get people compliance in the licensing law, not backload our enforcement department with cases that can be took care of very fast by getting them in compliance. So that's what the sweeps are really good for. Identifying the unlicensed is what we're really there for, but we're fair. If there's work going on at a job site, we're going to stop by, we're going to see them, we're going to look at license, whether you're licensed or not. We're going to talk to you, we're going to give you our card, our direct number, and anytime we can help you, we're going to help our contractors as well as unlicensed people get licensed or do what they need to do. It's been really good since the conception of this program in 2006, and it only gets bigger. But I got to tell you, I'm not getting younger, and we always joke around. What are we going to be getting out with canes hollering? Wait up there, young man. But it would be nice to see some young blood to be able to train. But we're going to continue doing what we do. Want to jump back up there to number 3 on January 31st. Here's our white elephant in the room, and I'm going to go ahead and kick it if you don't mind. I was very fortunate to be asked by NFPA to be part of their task group on 210-8F. If you are not familiar with 210-8F, I would hope you were, but if you're not, that requires GFCI overcurrent protection on air conditioning units. It don't work. That's the facts. The manufacturers of the air conditioning has came to us, told us it's not a couple of problems. It's literally 8 different things that are problematic that I've heard. I've got to give a shout out to the Texas Air Conditioning Association and ACA. They really stepped up on this task group. They pulled a lot of data in. When you look at the data down below, they compiled this data, and there's some very important notes I'm going to go over when we talk about that, because it's something that needs to be pointed out. I will tell you, that if you look right under it, you will see the TIA that we fought tooth and nail to get passed. I did not want to put a date on it because the manufacturers of the air conditioning equipment witnessed to us that it would be 2028 to 2030 before this would work. So why are we putting a date and something in a requirement that's not going to work then? But Code Panel 2 is not going to pass or even give us the opportunity on a TIA if we don't give them something with a date. So we compromised with September 1st of 2026. That would make sure that we're took care of here till our adoption. But with that said, I'm going to talk about the rest of it in a little while on the other one because we do have some very serious things to talk about here and make sure that we're doing right for Texans. You can see these are just the things that were kind of notable that we've done. We do all kind of other things. I wish this was just my life and day. What you see right here, I'd still have hair probably. Bottom line is we're working hard every day. We go out there, we get out in the field, we meet with them, we talk with them, we do things. You can even see on May the 7th, that was an IC barbecue cook-off. You're probably saying, well, what the good's that? That was a Saturday. I'm not charging time to go out and talk to these contractors and meet with them. I can't pass up some good barbecue too, you know, but bottom line is anytime we can get out with anybody, any electrician, talk with them, meet with them, it builds that relationship. They know that we're here working for them and we're working tireless. In the end, all we want is a safe installation by a licensed, qualified, trained person. So at the end of the day, if that system fails, it fails safely and everybody walks away with their life and unharmed. We've had too many times we've had to look at electrocuted child, and I don't want to see it again. It's the worst part of the job, but it is part of the job. But what makes the job special is being able to make it safer for Texans. When I took this job, my one goal was to make it safer and better electrically than the way I found it. I hope I've honored that, and I hope that I've honored this industry. If you go down, you'll see our code adoption 2020, 2023. Probably don't have to tell you the debacle we had that they put that in there in 210.8F and it hit, and all of a sudden people's air conditioning was tripping, going out, didn't work, and it don't work. And what we've heard, it's not going to work. And if you look at the very first statement, this is the TIA that was submitted by the task group that I was on, that we voted for. I believe it was 11-4 vote. Coincidentally, the 4 votes that voted against it were manufacturers' reps. If you look at Code Panel 2, I think you'll see that they're overloaded on that side. This is a conversation I've had with NFPA. Do plan to speak with them when I'm in Boston the first week of June and have more conversation on this about having the code panel equalized. And with that said, any of you contractors out there, any of you inspectors out there, we need people like you on the code panels. We need your voice. And if you're interested, you can contact me. I'll be more than happy to walk you through the process, how you apply for that and get on there. TDLR is not only represented by me and Larry on Code Panel 17, we now have our elevator chief and deputy chief that represent the department on the code panel that represents elevators. So we're getting more people involved with the department. We look forward to doing that, especially if your program has code language. That's their way to be part of it and to look what needs to be done for the safeguarding of persons and property from the use of electrical. You can go on down, look at this data. I'm not going to talk about it right now because that is the next agenda item. That's why I put this on here. And again, I cannot thank ACA enough for providing this data and what they've helped do for showing this, just what we found out, that this does not work. Will it work in the future? Maybe. I'm not positively sure we can, but with science and technology, I think we can. The one big thing as we went through this that I never thought about being an electrician was when we have refrigerant and oil in a compressor and that air conditioner fires up, what do we have? We have an awful large arc inside of that compressor. I don't know that we're going to be able to get past that, but the industry does know the problems. They are working on it as we speak, and they are trying to get this compatible so we can use it. With that said, I'll open it up to questions to anybody that would like to ask me any questions on our meetings and activities or anything on the 2020 or 23 that I can answer. But if it is about the removing it, I want to wait till our next agenda item to discuss that.
All right, Jerry, thank you. Members of the board, you're up. Anybody have any questions for Jerry?
Liddell Toy, Jerry, I just wanted to thank you. You're doing a hell of a job for the industry, for the state of Texas. I've worked with you in the past, and you're a great guy. You're very knowledgeable in your field, and you and Larry are killing it. So thanks for your help on this.
Liddell, I appreciate that, and I look to building the relation. We know what happened about 10 years ago, and we haven't had that close of a relationship with the Sign Association and since that happened, but I look forward to building that back up and being part of it. So anytime you want us there, you want us to talk, teach, speak, we'll be there. You just give me a call, you let me know. I appreciate you supporting us, and I've got to throw a shout out to Kim Allen. Kim has been working tirelessly on our exams with us. He knows what it goes through, and it is really great to have cohesion now. So when you advisory board members, aren't sure and somebody comes up and says the exam's not fair, you have somebody that can tell you our exam's probably the most fair exam in the United States. It is probably one of the best. I would put our exam and our SMEs up against any other exam or SMEs in the industry. We have had some of the most notable people like Jeff Sargent from NFPA, the late John Minnick, Gary Jones, N.A. Wyman. Some of the greatest people have worked on our exams, and we do it fairly because we want to know that you are qualified to get that license that you get. So I thank you very much for your compliments, and we will continue to work even harder for not only the electrical industry as a whole, but each industry that's with it, the sign industry, the appliance industry. We are here and we are ready to do what we got to do to get it done.
Any other members of the board?
Jerry, I'd like to tell you thank you, and thank you for everything you do for the great state of Texas. Sitting on that advisory committee with you, on the exam review committee with you, you and Larry do a great job. Y'all, there's guys in there that have 33 master license in different states. They sit on that committee. It's just unbelievable. I can't even get to the page and they're already blurting out the answer and what article it's coming from and everything. And I'm just like, the guys are just great. But yeah, if you want to get on there, honestly, it's a great committee to get on. It is a tough. I work a lot with Gina Hoffman, which is the PSI person. We start at 8 o'clock. We finish at 5 o'clock, y'all. I mean, she runs a very tight ship and we get our job done. So it's awesome to be on that committee as well as on this one, y'all. So thank you. Thank you, Jerry.
Okay, come on, Mr. Allen. You're being nice. Gina works us like dogs. She makes us work overtime.
Yes, she does. Yes, she does. She does a great job, though.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in total agreement with that. I've never seen anybody like Gina corral a room full of men like she does. I tell you what, nobody messes with her. Unbelievable. Anybody else from the board? All right, Jerry, always look forward to your report, sir. Our congratulations, please extend it from the board to Larry on his accomplishment. And I am extremely grateful for your kindness and that big heart of yours, Jerry, and reminding us of the most unfortunate, heartbreaking events that just transpired in Uvalde. Thanks for bringing that up.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay, No other questions of Jerry, then I'll move on to item F6, Executive Office Update. Christina Kaiser.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and board members. I'm Christina Kaiser. I'm the Senior Deputy Executive Director, lots of words, for TDLR. And I'm happy to share the Executive Office staff report with you today. First, I'd like to echo what others have said. Welcome to all of the new members of this advisory board. We could not be successful in the job we do at TDLR without your help. So we look forward to putting you guys to work. I wanted to start with just letting you know, since your last meeting, there have been some changes in the executive office. Many of you are acquainted with Brian Francis, who was the executive director for TDLR for 5 years. And before that, he was deputy executive director for probably 17 or 18 years. Brian retired from state service on February 1st. And so now we have a new executive director at the agency. His name is Mike Arizmendez. Mike has been with TDLR as a deputy executive director, you know, what I am, for about 3 years prior to his promotion. But Mike was already acquainted with TDLR even before that, because he served on our commission, the governing body for TDLR that's appointed by the governor. Mike was on our commission for more than 10 years. And so when he joined us on staff, he was already very well acquainted with everything that the agency does. So in the executive office now, some of us have shifted positions just a little bit. So I have here, thank you, Anna. We have on the screen just sort of the structure of TDLR in a very high level view. You'll see the top middle, Mike Arizmendez is now the executive director. I was already a deputy executive director. Mike decided that he wanted to appoint me senior deputy executive director. And then you'll see David Gonzalez remains in the role of deputy executive director as well. He was already in that role before Mike moved up. And then we have a new addition in the executive office over on the other side of the page, a chief of staff position. And that gentleman is Hemant Macon. He has been with TDLR for a number of years, 5 years or so. He joined TDLR when we assumed responsibility for the podiatry program. Before coming to TDLR, Hemant was the executive director of that standalone agency, the podiatry board, for many years. And so you'll see that if you were acquainted with what TDLR looked like before, not a whole lot of change in terms of what the divisions are. You know, the divisions where the mission-specific work of the agency is done. Those haven't changed, like licensing, education examinations, enforcement, etc. But some of who they report to has changed a little bit up in the executive office. Thank you for that, Anna. Wanted to let you know about our strategic plan. This time of year, every other year, TDLR and all state agencies are required to prepare a strategic plan. It's something that you do in the year before the legislature meets. And the strategic plan has a couple of purposes. It's intended to sort of provide a high level view of TDLR, you know, who we are, what we do, who we regulate, that kind of information. And then the strategic plan also serves to educate the legislature about big priorities that are on our agenda at this time. So obviously one of TDLR's big priorities still is implementing all the requirements of our sunset review that happened last legislative session. And then the strategic plan will also sort of forecast certain things that we might be asking for during the legislative session, like certain things that might be part of our budget. Our commission met just yesterday and approved our strategic plan that is due to be turned in on June 1st. And so that will be published when that is finalized and actually turned in, we have to submit it to the Legislative Budget Board, the Governor's Office, and a handful of other oversight bodies. When that is turned in, it will be published on the agency's website. Some of you over the last couple of months may have participated in focus groups that TDLR holds in various locations around the state to gather feedback from the public and from the industries that we regulate. If any of you were there, we thank you for your participation. And the feedback that we receive in those focus group meetings is valuable to us in determining what our priorities need to be, and also in determining if there are things about our rules or about our program statutes that are unworkable. So thank you for that. We held those focus groups in, oh gosh, let me think if I can remember all the cities: Brownsville, San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, and Austin. And tell me, Anna, if I'm forgetting any. And so groups of employees traveled out to all those locations and held meetings. We set up at various hotels and public event centers and invited the public in. It was a very valuable exercise. The other thing I wanted to just briefly touch on, I know at your previous meeting, maybe your previous last couple of meetings, I have briefed you about our sunset implementation. Last legislative session, 2021, TDLR was the subject of a sunset commission review. This is something that happens to state agencies every 12 years. And after the sunset commission staff reviews the agency, they come in and see how we do our business, and they produce a report with recommendations. Some of those recommendations are for statute changes, and though the statute change recommendations get put into a bill that has to pass the legislature in order for TDLR to continue in operation. Thankfully, all that happened last session. TDLR was continued in existence for 12 more years. Our sunset bill was House Bill 1560, and we have had many teams of staff since the sunset review by the staff was complete in June of 2020, before the legislative session even got underway. We have had people working on implementing the various recommendations made by the Sunset Commission. At this point, we are in a place where we have finished a lot of the pieces. The sunset recommendations consist of some really big, heavy items. Like one example is consolidation of the barber and cosmetology programs, which have historically been two separate programs. But the sunset recommendation that passed the legislature was to merge those into a single statute and eliminate a lot of the separate license types. So that's a big undertaking, right? And so that's one of the big ticket items that we are still in the process of implementing at this time. I was looking over kind of our list and trying to see some items that would be of particular interest to this board. And actually just yesterday at the commission meeting, the commission adopted some rules that related to advisory boards. One of the recommendations from Sunset was that many of our individual program statutes, like the electrician statute, the air conditioning statute, et cetera, have had historically inconsistent provisions in them about how advisory board meetings are to be run. Some of them say the board must meet every 6 months, or the board must meet 4 times a year, or the board will meet at the call of the chairman of the board. So those things were very inconsistent, and just the pace of trying to keep up with those various requirements was taxing for the agency. And if there was no need for an advisory board to meet, it didn't make sense just to meet because a statute said we had to. And so Sunset's recommendation was to pull all of those recommendations out of the individual program statutes and instead put in TDLR's enabling statute, chapter 51 of the occupations code, some general language saying the advisory boards will meet at the call of the executive director of TDLR or at the call of our chairman, the chairman of the commission. And that gives us more discretion to meet when we need to. And so a set of rules was just adopted by the commission yesterday to effectuate that change. And so thankfully, that's one item on our list of sunset items where we can pretty much check the box now and call it done. Another item that passed that's of significance to advisory boards is language was added also to Chapter 51, TDLR's enabling statute, that states that advisory board meetings, that we can continue to hold advisory board meetings in this forum, in an online forum. During the pandemic, we were holding meetings in an online setting thanks to some waivers that were passed by or issued by the governor's office saying, you guys don't all need to meet in person. You can meet virtually and it can still qualify as a public, a meeting that's open to the public. But that was under an emergency order that had limited duration. And thankfully, the Sunset Commission saw the value in these advisory board meetings continuing to be able to meet virtually, since none of you guys are paid to be here. Your travel isn't paid to come to Austin. So that has also become law now in TDLR's enabling statute. I am happy to answer any questions if you have them about specific provisions of the sunset bill or about our implementation, but I don't want to spend a lot of time going over all of that because I feel like I've briefed you a lot about it already.
Thank you very much, Christina. Any members of the board have any questions of Christina?
Yes, Marcus Lundegreen. I remember they had mentioned something about, I believe it was the journeyman lineman lessons and I want to say the industrial electrician lessons. I believe those were mentioned to possibly do away with from the Sunset Commission. Is there any word on if those are going to go away, and if so, when?
It was a recommendation of the Sunset staff that those two licenses be eliminated. However, the Sunset Commission, when the Sunset Commission met to review and adopt or not the recommendations made by staff, those two recommendations were not adopted. And so those two license types continue in effect, and there was no change as a result of the Sunset Bill passing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good question, Marcus. Anyone else? Christina, as always, you always do a great job, and I got to tell you, I think I speak for Anna and David Gonzalez, and of course myself. I just love that diploma that you have hanging up over your right shoulder there on your wall.
Yes, sir. Let me give you a good view of that.
There you go.
Sir, we do have one more item for Christina. It's the communication outreach district.
Okay, all right.
My apologies. I forgot about that part. Anna, can you show? Oh, thank you. You are putting those. So these are statistics that we provide to each advisory board just to give you a sense of how much the regulated population, as well as anyone from the public, is visiting your particular part of TDLR's website. So over the last 6 months, you can see there have been more than 473,000 views, which averages to 2,600 per day. So this is a well-visited portion of TDLR's website. And then we have some information here about the type of device that people used to visit. 35% of our visitors accessed your site from a desktop computer, 64% from a smartphone. So that's definitely the front runner, and then 1% from a tablet. And then listed here are the top reasons why people came and visited your portion of the website. Lots of licensing applications there. Not surprising. Any questions about any of that? Okay, then I thank you for your time.
Okay, Christina, thank you very much. One quick question, Christina, on the meetings. The meetings, they weren't determined to be solely electronic or virtual. You could the advisory boards can still meet in person or virtually, correct?
You are correct. It's not obligatory that they always be virtual, but I can tell you that that's going to be our default position for purposes of planning at our end. If you are interested at some point in having an in-person meeting with all of you coming together, definitely let us know that. The in-person meetings are a little harder to schedule, and they probably have to be scheduled with a little more advanced planning, just
Right.
because of making the physical location available and all of the support staff who need to be present.
Okay, Anna, you did a great job of communicating that when we announced this meeting coming up. Appreciate that, Anna. Thank you, Christina. Thank you very, very much. Okay, nothing further for Christina. I'm going to move on to item G on the agenda. Discussion and possible recommendation of proposed amendments to an existing rule at 16 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 73, Paragraph 73.100 regarding the electricians program. The proposed rule amends 73.100 by stating that compliance with Section 210.8F of the 2020 National Electric Code is not required. I'll call on Doug Jennings at this time to edify and enlighten us.
Thank you, Chairman Roach. Again, my name is Doug Jennings, and I am an Assistant General Counsel for the department. Longtime members of the board, you can be forgiven for experiencing deja vu. And new members, I'd like to give you a little background into this rulemaking. So Mr. Daniel explained some of the issues that have arisen with Section 210.8F of the 2020 National Electrical Code. I'll call it the NEC. As you know, 210.8F requires GFCI protection on readily available, readily accessible outdoor outlets, a lot of which, as you well know, connect to air conditioning systems, heat pumps, and the like. And of course, requiring that GFCI protection has just resulted in havoc, has resulted in nuisance tripping of air conditioning systems in the summer, and of course, heating systems in the winter. And having experienced Texas summers and recent Texas winters, we know the importance of heating and air conditioning. And so one of the things that we have decided to do as an agency, we have taken point on making sure that those systems don't fail because of this compatibility issue that Section 210.8F has caused. So last year, in a series of rulemakings, our commission first initiated an emergency rule that delayed the implementation of Section 210.8F of the 2020 NEC, that moved the date where compliance would be required to January 1st, 2023. Later on, this advisory board and also the Air Conditioning and Refrigeration Advisory Board recommended the publication of and ultimately recommended the adoption of rules, of permanent rules that pushed the applicability of 210.8F to January 1st, 2023. And the reason that date was chosen, I guess we all thought COVID would be over by now, but particularly then, last year, we thought, well, there's some supply chain issues caused by COVID. Perhaps once COVID ends, knock on wood, those supply chain issues will resolve and these equipment compatibilities won't be so severe, and we can start requiring compliance with 210.8F. Well, that has not come to pass. As Mr. Daniel mentioned, the equipment that's going to be compatible, that's going to stop this nuisance tripping, is not going to be available for a number of years. So what we are asking you to do today, and I'll show you the rule in a moment, but I'm just trying to give you the concept. We're asking you to amend the applicable electrical rule to say that compliance with Section 210.8F is not required, period. Instead of is not required until January 1st, 2023. Now, practically speaking, what this means is we are kind of withholding judgment for about another year. We're going to start rulemaking to adopt the 2023 NEC next spring with a hopeful adoption date of September 1st, 2023. And, Mr. Daniel showed a draft of what what may or may not appear in the 2023 NEC when it's finalized. So we can take this issue back up in our spring rulemaking. But for right now, what we're asking you to do is to recommend amendment of Rule 73.100, and I'm going to share it right now so you can see what we've done. To remove this highlighted language that says until January 1st, 2023. So in essence, we're asking you to change subsection B to read, notwithstanding subsection A, compliance with section 210.8F of the 2020 National Electrical Code is not required, period. Once again, we will have an opportunity to analyze this issue again when it's time to consider adoption of the 2023 NEC. But for now, we just want to make sure that we get through another summer without systems tripping and becoming unavailable, and that protects the health and safety of Texans. And also, I think you all, those of you who have experience working with Jerry and Larry in our electrical department, know full well that their primary concern is safety, and they have looked at this change, and they are confident. I'll actually call Jerry to appear, Jerry, if you're there, just to talk about the potential safety ramifications if making this change is going to have a negative safety impact.
Thank you, Doug. Any members of the board have any questions?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Roach. I was going to ask Jerry to just give us his opinion.
Oh, okay, Jerry. Sorry, I stepped on you. All right.
That's okay. You can do that. I'd like you to go back to my report and go to table 1, loss of HVAC operations and potential impact. As you could see, we're looking at over 75 million air conditionings throughout the country being affected by this. That's a lot of air conditioning. And when we break down the numbers, really and truly, if we only look at 1% that could be affected by death caused by heat-related injuries, we're looking at possibly 750 a year. That's astronomical. That's not acceptable. As you know, in Texas, a house that doesn't have air conditioning on in the middle of July, August, even June, and apparently some days in May, it can get 140, 150 degrees or more in there. How long could an elderly or disabled person or child survive in that kind of heat until somebody got that turned on? So I definitely see a potential bigger impact for a loss of life by not having the air conditioning versus tripping. Now, for some reason, the statistics showed that we would have 4 deaths a year, maybe. But the fact is, 210.8F was put in by Code Panel 2 that they used 2 examples on. One example was identical to a Ferris Bueller's Day Off. A young man in the Illinois area was skipping school. He tried to beat his parents home. He jumped up on the neighbor's air conditioner, and when he grabbed the metal chain link fence to jump over into his yard, that's when he was electrocuted. Why was he electrocuted? Because an untrained, unqualified personnel installed that air conditioner and seen no need for the grounding conductor and did away with it. Well, if we have current go to the shell of that unit and we don't have a grounding conductor bonding it to take it back to the source to trip it, this is what's going to happen. Coincidentally, the second thing that they used to justify putting in 210.8F was the little girl that died here in Texas. They said air conditioning. I'm sorry, me and Mr. Reichel investigated that tragic death of that 9-year-old little girl. She was killed by a washer and dryer that was installed by a bathroom, again, by an unlicensed, untrained, unqualified personnel. Reverse the polarities, the neutral and the hot on the receptacle for the washer, and did not have a conductor for the grounding conductor for the dryer, tapped off of a neutral conductor onto the house, and therefore when both of them were on and the little girl touched both of them together, the current went through her body, stopped her heart, and electrocuted her. So one of the examples for 210.8F wasn't even plausible because it wasn't an air conditioning. The bottom line is the statistics that's been put together by ACA, knowing Texas weather, we have no choice but to protect our citizens from a worse fatality of heat exhaustion and heat death. If you go down a little further to figure 1, where we have the bar graph, you'll see that on this task group, the manufacturers tried saying, nah, it's only happening to variable speed or that, and they wanted to make it where single speed had to have that. Well, if you look at the data collected, actually the single stage is the one that was tripping off the most from what they found. But the bottom line is they're all going to have this problem because the technology is not compatible. We have the technology, it's just not compatible. I'll be the first person to tell you, I am a big major proponent for GFCI. I know it saves lives. It saved my wife's life, and I know it works. But I can't force people to do something that doesn't work. And it wouldn't be right for the state of Texas to ask people to do something that could put their lives more in jeopardy. So therefore, we come to you again. I have worked hard on the TIA. You see the language right there above. If you go to the very bottom of my activities report, where it's 2020 and 23 National Electric Code, that 2020 edition NEC, that is the exact language that the TIA that we propose go to Code Making Panel 2, not only for the 2020 edition, but also the 2023 edition. Now, if it passes, we're going to be good till September 1st, 2026. But I have the manufacturer telling me it ain't going to work then. So why do we want a date on it? At this point, I recommend that we remove it out of the National Electric Code for life safety issues, and that we talk about it or keep it in when it actually works. And according to the manufacturers, it's probably going to be the 29 code edition before we're close enough to see if we're going to get there. So with that said, I'll be happy to answer any questions that anybody may have.
Any questions from the board?
Thank you, Jerry. And Chairman Roach, if you wouldn't mind, I'd just like to kind of give the members an overview of the process from here. I know I covered it in training in kind of the rapid fire fashion earlier. So what we are asking you for you to do today is to recommend the publication of this rule amendment. Once again, I will share it just so you can lay eyes on it one more time. And so I'm asking for the board's recommendation that TDLR publish this proposed rule, and that removing until January 1st, 2023, so saying compliance with 210.8F is not required, period. And what that will do upon your recommendation, TDLR, our rules coordinators will file a document with the Texas Register publication. We will print that rule in the Texas Register, and there will be a 30-day comment period. So members of the public, interested people, last time we did this, we got comments both from electricians and from equipment manufacturers. So I expect that would be similar here. We will gather all those comments, compile them, distribute them to you so you have time to read through the comments, and we will call you back for another meeting in mid-August, at which point we will discuss the comments, and you will decide as a board whether or not to recommend that rule go further, go all the way to our commission for adoption. So this is your first look today. If you'll recall, during my training, there were 2 blue boxes where the board gets to look at a rule. This is the first today. And so happy to answer any questions, but once again, just to let you know what our peers are doing. Of the states that have adopted the 2020 NEC, I believe in Jerry's report, it mentioned that the vast majority have either modified section 210.8F or removed it entirely. And we have already received approval of this rule proposal from the governor's office, just as we did last year for these similar rule proposals. So while I expect to receive some comments from manufacturers asking us not to move forward, I also expect comments both ways, I suppose. So anyway, happy to answer any procedural questions, and I will defer to Jerry on the technical questions. Thank you.
Okay. Board members, any questions?
So Mark, do we need a motion for this,
Yes.
or
Yes, we need a motion to recommend a publishing of the rule change to eliminate the until January 1, 2023 date.
okay, well, I would like to make a motion that TDLR published amended rule 73.100 with section 210.8.
Thank you, sir.
Kit Bass, second.
Who seconded?
Kit Bass.
Ken. Okay. All right, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? There being none, Anna, would you call the roll for the vote?
Yes, sir. Marcus Lundergreen,
Aye.
John Sparrow,
Aye.
Kit Bass,
Aye.
Mark Matheny,
Aye.
Lydell Toy,
Aye.
Kim Allen,
Aye.
and presiding officer Mark Roach.
Aye.
We have the motion passed, sir.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Chairman.
Thank you, board. Thank you. Good job, Doug. Good job, Jerry. Couple of tag-alongs on your presentation here on this agenda item. First of all, for the older board, for the more tenured board members that are here present today, if you recall, we took this subject matter up when the 2020 code came out and the issue arose. And it was remarkable in my discussions recently that with Doug that we are already approaching the advent of the 2023 National Electric Code, if you can believe that. I don't even think my 2020 code, unfortunately, I hate to admit this, hardly has any creases in the cover because I just hadn't had a long enough period of time to use it to put any creases in it. And Jerry, to support your report on the climate findings, I was in San Antonio on May the 15th to take my son and a bunch of his freshman high school buddies to Fiesta, Texas. And I remember we stayed overnight. I climbed in the car after a very enjoyable afternoon in the market in San Antonio on Sunday. Looked at my wife. I said, of course, I had a car full of kids, but I thought, man, the air conditioner what is wrong with it? We just had it fixed and it just didn't seem like it was working. And she pointed at the dashboard at the temperature on the gauge on my dashboard. It was 102 degrees in San Antonio last Sunday. Unbelievable. In the middle of May. That's any kind of an indication of what kind of trouble we're headed for the rest of the year, heat-wise. Okay, with that said, then I'll move on to item H on the agenda, work group assignments, enforcement work group. And I'm assuming, Anna, you are going to direct this, or Christina?
Yes, sir, I can if you'd like me to.
Please.
For the enforcement work group, we're going to be, you are going to be assigning someone volunteering, if you may, people to this work group. Now, this work group is going to consist of, at most, 4 of our board members. They're going to be dealing with things such as complaint prioritization and other issues such as the penalty matrix and criminal conviction guidelines. I did speak with some of our new board members during our board member training earlier this month and let them know that this was going to be one of our agenda items, and if they would like to volunteer, they could do so as well. And our board members that are already on the board, y'all can volunteer as well. And presiding officer Roach, you can also be on this work group, but it is your deciding decision to put members on this board. Oh, I'm sorry, on this work group.
Now, are you looking for that decision today, or can I converse with each of my board members?
We would like something today, yes, sir.
Like something today. You heard it, guys. All right. I guess first of all, then I will ask for volunteers.
I will volunteer. I'll be the first sucker.
With it Lydell?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Lydell.
Yep.
Anna, you can put me down
Okay.
unless we have 3 other board members that would like to volunteer at some point.
Is this work group, is it going to be done over Zoom or email or?
Yes to both. So it's either going to be phone calls, emails, or it's going to be a virtual meeting such as this. It's not going to be anything in person.
Okay, you can put me down.
Okay.
Thank you, Marcus. John Sparrow, you're a world of wisdom. You have any aspirations to sit on this committee?
Mr. Roach, I will gladly sit on the committee, no problem at all. Happy to do that.
Fantastic. After the board meeting today, I will go ahead and send out the list. We have Mr. Roach, Mr. Toy, Mr. Lundergreen, and Mr. Sparrow on the enforcement work group. Thank you, Jen.
Before we close this out, is there any of the board members that would like to move me out and take my place on this committee? I didn't think so.
Thank you all for your volunteering.
All right, very good. Will we get that job done, Anna?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Moving on then to item I on the agenda, recommendations for agenda items for the next board meeting. Does anybody have anything that they would like to have placed on the agenda? And of course, extend the invitation to any of you that if something comes up, you can always reach out to myself or reach out to Anna and ask that it be considered for the next agenda item. Our next agenda.
One of the items that we're going to have at the next advisory board meeting is going to be the public comments that are going to come back
Right.
From the rules that we're going to post onto the Texas Register. So I'll go ahead and put those on there as well.
Okay. And then of course, all the usual and customary reports.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Roach, John Sparrow.
Yes, John.
One of the items I think maybe we should look at least keep an eye on it prior to the next meeting is a lot of our electrical providers in subdivision type equipment are having significant problems with supply chain issues. And so while I know that doesn't necessarily directly affect this group, it does obviously mean that a lot of projects will be moving forward without subdivisions being energized, and the problems that causes for electricians as they're installing into homes and projects without energy or without power in the subdivisions or on the projects themselves. Some of the providers or some of the electrical providers are looking at changing some of their specs to keep up with demand, and so I think it's just something that we should be aware of and we should be looking at, as potential requirements for wire sizing and stuff like that may change due to the equipment that they're now going to have available to them. So I'll keep an eye on that and I'll provide information as I get it. I think it's something that as a board we should be kind of keeping an eye on.
Yes, that is a great point, John. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I have seen just tremendously adversely impact the folks in our industry is financially. We have projects that these guys have started and can't complete because of supply chain issues. And essentially what that causes is a backlog in the funding process, which means that we've got contractors out there who have, they've got committed time and they've got committed material in their projects, and they can't draw on them because they can't complete them per their prescribed schedules. And I had no idea of the impact that it had until one contractor brought it to my attention. And the way he did it was to ask me if I had access to assistance from manufacturers who were causing this problem. Did they have any programs available to the contractors to help them financially? And so I looked, and just his account, I looked to see what our backlog was for him to him until such time as the product could come in. We went to the manufacturer and put in that request, and it got their attention. And I'm not exactly sure who did it or how they did it, but his order got moved to the front of the line, and all of a sudden cases and cases and cases of these dual function breakers showed up for him to go install on his jobs. But yes, John, that is an excellent point. And I think we owe it as a service to the industry to bring it up, to talk about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think GFCI breakers in particular are having significant issues
Yes.
from the supply chain issues in it. And particularly as you get a little bigger, up to the 30 and 50 amp range,
Right.
those things seem to be almost impossible to get. So
Yes.
worth, I think, a discussion and see as this rule goes through with the manufacturers, might be an opportunity to have them address,
Exactly.
some of the supply chain issues to our board and see what's been done about it, since we all seem to be in the dark.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We could have Square D and Cutler Hammer and Siemens. We could certainly invite them to come speak, address the issue.
That'd be great. I'd love to see that on the agenda if possible. Thank you.
Great idea, John. Great idea. Anybody else?
Yeah, Mr. Roach, Kit Bass.
Yes, Kit.
Something Mr. Lundegreen had brought up earlier, looking at all the different license types that we have out there, is it something that we need to discuss on like industrial license, since the numbers are so low? Is it something that we actually need to have, or is that something that we can at least discuss?
That's an excellent observation, Kit and Marcus. That license is relatively new, and I think at first the thought is that there would be a big inrush of folks to come in and take those tests and get that license. As I recall in our discussions at the outset, was to wait. It would take a wait and see if the activity would increase over time, especially as guys became more aware of it. But that's certainly something that we could bring up for discussion again.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you for that insight. Anybody else? All right, guys, good job. With that said, then I'll move on to item J of the agenda. Discussion of date, time, and location of the next board meeting.
Chairman Roach, this is Doug Jennings, Assistant General Counsel.
Yes, sir. Doug.
Based on our existing rule timeline, it looks like we'll be asking you to meet in mid-August.
Okay.
So I will ask Anna. Anna and I will coordinate and poll the board with some potential dates. It could be anywhere from the beginning to about 3 weeks into August. I think we have some flexibility. So we'll get with the board and find out what works for you.
Okay. And August, you feel like that time in August is enough time to digest everything that's going to take place with the discussion?
Yes, sir. I mean, regarding the rules, yes.
Right.
Yes, for certain.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right, Nana, you'll send out a need to meet.
Yes, sir, of course.
Okay. So we're looking at August sometime.
Mhm.
All right. With that said, some thank yous are in order. Anna, thank you for keeping me in line, keeping us in line. Christina, Doug, you guys, everybody on the staff, you guys just do a fantastic job of keeping us enlightened. And of course, I'm not going to forget Mike Fickle. He's in the background back there somewhere, keeping us between the ditches of technology. It was a flawless meeting again today, Mike, and we appreciate that, sir. All right, with that said, then I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Right, I have a motion and a second. Anna, do you need to call the roll on this? Okay.
No, sir.
All right, I'll just say all in favor, say, raise your hand. All in favor, raise your hand. There you go. All right, you have a majority there, Anna. Thank you very much, guys, for your time. Be safe. Kim, and Mark and Lydell, thank you so much for your interest in joining us on this board. We're really looking forward to working with you and hope that you got something out of this meeting and bring a bunch more to our future meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, everybody be safe. Enjoy your summer.
Thank you, board.
Everyone.
See you guys later.
See
Bye-bye.
y'all later. All right,
Thanks.
thanks.
Thank you, everyone.